absorbed in, and you are Sonic.
What's up, everybody? I'm Taylor Olmstead, and I want to welcome you to No Repeat, a podcast where we pick 3 songs every week with no repeats and no do-overs to create the perfect playlist for every occasion life throws at you. Joining me on our special New Year's special episode, it's Tyler Reed.
2018 sucks, but these songs don't. Yeah.
And Sean Evans.
I didn't know that this was the special episode. I would have dressed a little more special.
So this week, in lieu of a challenge, we wanted to pick our favorite songs of 2018 to wrap up the year on this pre-New Year's Eve episode. So I guess instead of talking through the challenge like we normally do, let's just take a minute to kind of reflect on what we've been listening to this year, because I feel like we've all been kind of all over the map in our listening this year. What genres were you into? What kinds of trends were you seeing in music this year? What's kind of the overall landscape of your music listening for 2018, guys?
Mostly rock, probably indie, a little bit of folk, vague hip-hop, a little bit of world music, classics. Classic rock mainly because that's what I've been learning how to play on guitar. I just feel like that's my go-to genre that I listen to. So when I looked at my Spotify list of like, what have you been listening to most this year? Surprisingly, not surprisingly, it was the songs that I've been learning on guitar. But some of the other ones, it did surprise me that this was the most listened to song that I had this year. I didn't think it was this one because I don't think about this song very much. But then when I played it, I was like, yes, this makes a lot of sense. I did like this song a lot.
Interesting. So you picked your song because it was your most played of the year.
I listened to other ones that were up on top of that list, but a lot of the ones that are on top of that list were ones that I had for the show. So I was kind of like already narrowed down. Like I couldn't pick, Kali Uchis. I couldn't pick, I couldn't pick Fiddler. Like all these other songs I had already used. So I was like, well, I'm not going to lose already. We're only 10 episodes in. I don't really want to just already get my first strike. So, Tyler, tell us about your Spotify top 2018 playlist.
So a lot of it was really influenced by this podcast, actually, because most of the songs on here are things that either I listened to or Sean picked or Taylor picked. So honestly, one of my most played songs was, God, what was it? It was the one, it's a really goofy one that you picked like forever ago. That was like a winter song, maybe. God, what was it? No, it wasn't. It was Bungie Garland. Carnival Tabanca was one of the most played songs because I just couldn't understand what was going on in that song. I was like, why did Sean pick this? What happened?
Did that episode ever make it on the air?
No, it didn't.
Oh okay.
No!
Well, that's fine.
That was one of our test episodes that we may release later. But yeah, I definitely listened to that song a bunch of times too.
So shut man. I was like, what's the angle he's going at here? But so I think this year, I really embraced sort of the Discover feature where I really just kind of dug deep into a bunch of small artists that had just a few songs or were doing something interesting. So I really have a lot of different artists that really I know very little about and have like very little actual information on. Like if you go to their Last FM or their Spotify accounts, there's not like a bio. It's just like some dude that just like uploads stuff, probably from their SoundCloud. But so there was a lot of songs that were, like I said, were possible picks for the show. And some other ones were some newer songs. Like, I was into, Talk Gorillaz, because Gorillaz had a new album out. I listened to a lot of Tycho. It really kind of went to a bunch of places because Judas Priest had an album that I was not expecting to like at all, but actually was in love with for like a solid month.
You talked about the album a lot, surprisingly, and I can't say that I ever reached out to go look at it, but
yeah, I don't think I ever listened to it either.
I think I might go listen to it this week.
It doesn't sound like anything that they've ever done, and it sounds a little bit more like Iron Maiden, if anything, and that's fine with me. Cara Cara Bonita was big for me this year. It's actually a band that gets just recommended every week in your Discover Weekly if you start to even think about listening to them. But yeah, lots of electronic, lots of instrumental stuff, lots of covers, lots of vaporwave kind of stuff, future funk, stuff like that.
So I am the lone Apple Music user on the show now. Back in the Dudes Brunch days, Sean was also on Apple Music, so he'll feel my pain in this, in that there's not the same level of like automated playlist creation on Apple Music as there is on Spotify. A lot of the playlists on there are human curated, but over the last year, they've launched 3 automated playlists. They had the My New Music Mix that came out every Friday. That's basically Discover Weekly, but then they added a chill mix, which is like your lower tempo songs, your favorites mix, which is stuff from your library that you haven't listened to in a while, but has a high play count, and then a friends mix that I really like, where it picks songs that people you're friends with on the service are listening to, and it puts their little icon next to the album art so you can see like who essentially recommended it into your playlist. So a lot of the stuff that's on my best of list for the year is from those sources. I kind of use those 4 playlists throughout my week for different things. I also took a thing out of Sean's playbook and started building seasonal playlists this year. So I have a spring, a summer, a fall, and a winter playlist. And that actually made it really easy to pick for this episode because I had like 15 songs on each of those playlists. So about 60 songs that I then narrowed down to 15 and then narrowed down again to 1. They're all over the place. There's a lot more rock than I remembered liking this year. Some standard alternative stuff that you would expect from me, some pop punk. And then honestly, I feel like there wasn't any one major rap record or hip hop record that I was super into this year. I had really high hopes for the new Kanye, but now that we're like 6 months past it, it hasn't really lodged in my brain in the same way that Yeezus did. We didn't get a new album from Kendrick this year, so that didn't really do much for me. I wasn't a huge fan of the new Logic record. The only thing that really gave me a big impression in the hip-hop space was the new Anderson .Paak record. And even that, I didn't feel like there was a huge, like, blow-away single on. So my playlist this year really skewed alternative and rock heavy, which has been kind of an anomaly for me in the past couple of years, but it was nice to kind of get back to my roots genre-wise this year and revisit some artists I hadn't listened to in a while.
I think since we started this show, I think I've made a more conscious attempt to find artists and then listen to more of their work. Whereas before, I think I really was just trying to listen to as many different things. Like, I honestly would prefer if I just never heard the same song twice. But of course, we have a podcast where we talk about songs we actually enjoy. So we should probably find songs we like and listen to on purpose. So I think my habits have definitely shifted within, since recording this show. So I can undoubtedly expect my list to be much different this upcoming year.
Yeah, I think so too. I think I'm going to get a much more diverse selection of genres in 2019 by virtue of this show.
What do you think, Sean? What's going to change in your playlist?
Probably what I listen to when I listen for music, because this year, particularly since I switched over to Spotify from Apple Music, I really was looking to get inspired in my guitar playing, and that really is what kind of drove my music taste, what I was listening to, because I wanted to find a new fuzz tone. So I was listening to all these bands that had like really unique fuzz tones to see what fuzz tones they had, or I was listening for like different stereo effects. So, and you'll kind of hear about these when we get to B-sides, but like that, I was listening for different kinds of pedals, what they would use, what kind of amplifiers they would use, because I was searching for my own sound. So having this playlist kind of reflect that. It had songs that I generally like to listen to and like to exercise to that a little bit more ragey, but some of them a lot more were just, like the song that I ended up picking was one of the ones that really had an awesome fuzz tone on everything. So I really kind of keyed in on that, because I wanted to find that tone. But I think now that I have a rig that I like a little better and I'm more working on playing and technique, it'll definitely change that. I'll be looking for different styles.
So the yours is probably more research-based then. Your interests are based on whatever you're trying to solve, more or less.
Yeah, kind of right now.
So now that you've kind of solved whatever you're trying to figure out, you're probably going to have a pretty big shift then into a different direction.
I don't know about that. It's not like I was really looking out of my wheelhouse. I was more so just trying to find sounds that were interested to me.
All right, well, Tyler, why don't you tell us about your pick, since, spoiler alert, most of our listeners have probably heard us talk about this song before.
The song I chose for Best Song of 2018, Humility by the Gorillaz.
I don't want this isolation.
were a few songs this year that were real earworms that I listened to back to back, repeated several times. But I think the one that was first and made the biggest impact, I think, was this song. It's just such a good, chill groove I just can't get enough of. It's a completely different sound for Gorillaz. Feels a little familiar, still got that classic 2D sound, but it's like this tropical island vibe, which is totally an area they don't go into, and I love it. It's delicious. I love it so much.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, you picked this as your song of the summer on Dudes Brunch earlier in the year as well.
And oh, is it a song of summer? I've turned into a character.
Yeah, you're right.
I'm character acting now. I'm sorry, everyone. I'm this island beach man.
You're on island time.
He just wants to move to Los Angeles and stay on the beach and be all weird and ride around on roller skates and short shorts.
I mean, this song is a jam. Like, it is undisputedly a jam. Listening to it again for this podcast, as we're doing deeper dives on individual songs than we have in the past, I was really interested in the guitar feature from George Benson. He plays the lead guitar on this track, and it's a more interesting guitar line than I remembered. Like, I remember it being cool, but I was like, wow, there's some really intricate stuff in there, And there's some really cool synth going on towards the end of this track, where Damon Albarn's kind of playing with some arpeggiated synths and things, and just layering on top of this groove. It really feels in that, like, kind of chill wave vibe that I think a lot of 2018 has had for a lot of people. I think like it perfectly captures the pop zeitgeist of the moment and the kind of like blissed out, almost like fusion of tropical and shoegaze that we were seeing this summer. So yeah, I mean, this is a great pick. I think this song is going to go down as one of the best of the year for sure.
Oh, Taylor, you make such beautiful word paintings. It's almost like you've done a significant amount of writing about music, but you're right. The guitar part is way more complex, but it's super subdued, which I think is what makes it good for repeated listens, because you feel like you can find something new every time you listen. You can kind of really get into it. It really benefits from repeated listens.
Yeah, you're right, Taylor. This is really interesting. Listen to the guitar part, because it's not really like all solo-y. It's
more a guitar feature than a guitar solo.
Subdued. Yeah.
And it totally makes the song. I think it would not be as complete or as good without it. And I would sure hope so from a legendary guitarist, right? You would hope that their feature would make an impact, and I definitely think it does. I would love to hear it be kind of to be singled out. I'd like to do like a song exploder. I would love to hear that of the song.
I think too, it's more played in the style of like a lyrical guitar versus having a kind of shreddy scale running solo kind of deal. So that's refreshing too.
So as much as I talked in the intro about not listening to a lot of hip hop this year, the one song, if I had to pick like a hip hop song of the year, it's this one. This Is America by Childish Gambino.
You slipping now. Look what I'm whipping now. This is America. Don't catch you slipping now. Don't catch you slipping now.
So This Is America was kind of a surprise single drop from Childish Gambino at the beginning of summer, basically right as he announced that he was going to do one more tour as Childish Gambino, and then he was just going back to being Donald Glover full-time, no more rapping, no more singing, this was it. And as a swan song for this like 10-year-long rap and soul creative project that he's been on, I feel like this is the peak of everything that he's been doing. The music video was a sensation all summer. It's amazingly shot. It's directed by Hiro Murai, who directs a bunch of Donald Glover's TV show Atlanta. The beat on this song is produced by Ludwig von Göransson, who did the soundtrack for Black Panther. Like, the song is about gun violence and mass incarceration and police brutality. It's basically the most 2018 song to ever exist. But at the same time, it's incredibly catchy. Like, everywhere I heard this song, out of car windows, in stores, all over the place. I was lucky enough to go to Gambino's hometown show on the tour, and the entire stadium was screaming the words to this song. It's one of the coolest concert performances I've ever been a part of. I adore this song. I wish we had an album that sounded like this song, but I almost think I would have gotten tired of it. Like, I'm glad it's just this one song, because the song is so good that it's like all of his career condensed into 3 minutes, and I'm so into it.
I think you're right. This song had to be a single and nothing else, because it's a clear response to the climate in America. And I think that if he had taken more time to create like a narrative album, or like done like a more like story focused, like full length album, it just would not have had the same effect. And I think this was just the right jab we needed. You know, it just feels like, you're right. It's just like a perfect example of 2018.
No, Taylor, and I think that you're right, too, when you say this is, like, the song that really encompasses 2018, because I remember when this first came out and there was kind of a surprise, right? And then we talked about it at work. We had talked about it among friends. It was just really talked about for a music video, and I don't really think about music videos as something that even get talked about that much anymore, or even, like, lyrics. It seems like television kind of dominates my world, at least, what people talk about television and movies. But this seemed to kind of like, I don't think it was since Kendrick Lamar's last album that there was like this much talk about this, about hip hop as a genre in my immediate vicinity. So,
yeah,
I don't know.
I mean, it was a sensation. I think back to like the weeks surrounding this release, and I think this was right around the time that he did an SNL episode where he hosted and was the musical guest, and it was like everything in the world was coming up Donald Glover. He had just won an Emmy for Atlanta, like the second season was coming out. He had a really good year this year, and I think for somebody who only put out 3 songs,
yes,
like one of them is This Is America, and it's nominated for 4 Grammys, including Song of the Year and Record of the Year. Like, this song was unstoppable this year, so I had to pick it. I couldn't not pick it.
I think my biggest concern was, is this song still good if you listen to it without the music video? So I've been making a real honest attempt to listen to it without the visuals up, and it's still very good. And if anything, it's almost better, I think. Not that I think they're separate. You know, you have to kind of separate the two things. You have to separate this is the song and this is the experience. And I think the experience is amazing, but so is the song.
All right, so that leaves Sean. Sean, what was your best song of 2018?
So this year, my song was Be Your Man by D-Mob Happy. So as I kind of alluded to when we first started recording, a lot of my music this year has been spent trying to find my particular guitar sound. I also want to say that this wasn't like a reach for me to my best song, because it's kind of indie and it kind of fits in that garage mode too. I have never seen this. I heard anybody talking about this, not saying that it's like better because nobody knows it yet. But sometimes I just need like a real groovy beaty song that's like all fuzzy and kind of has that. It does have a very grunge feel to it, with the quiet verse and the loud chorus, a lot more busy. Maybe volume might not be it, maybe like the busyness of it overall. But I don't know. What do you guys think? Is it worth it?
I had never heard this song before you shared it with us for this episode. I am very into it. It feels like a harder rocking Tame Impala, which is actually exactly what I was looking for, because I feel like Tame Impala is a little too chill sometimes. It has these like almost classic like 60s boy band or like 60s pop band vocal melodies on the chorus that I really enjoy. And when you talk about trying to find your guitar tone, I can totally hear that in this song. Like the first time I listened to it, I was like, oh, that's a really cool guitar tone. And now hearing you say that you were trying to emulate that, it makes total sense. Like this song feels cool in a way that I don't think garage rock, like sometimes garage rock kind of comes off as corny or like overly nostalgic, but when it hits the right button and it feels cool, like it feels very cool. And this is that. It hits in the perfect sweet spot and you're like, yeah, this is working. Yeah,
that's pretty much my sentiments. I'm going to say that I feel like the song doesn't necessarily do anything new per se. You know, it feels like this is a solid song. It rocks. You know, there's a good groove, good lyrics, you know, like top to bottom, great song. It is interesting because I was trying to figure out, I was like, this sounds like another band. This feels like something. What is this kind of in league with? So like, I started like looking around. I was like, King Tough, Wolf People, Ruby the Hatchet, Clutch, Monster Magnet, Royal Blood, Death from Above were all bands that I was like, does it sound like this? And they're not. So this is almost like if you take like stoner rock and you just make it less stale and you actually make it like melodic and feel like it has like some like pop elements to it. This is basically what this band feels like for me. And that's honestly what I'm looking for. Is if you've ever tried to listen to stoner rock, sometimes it's just long and monotonous and droning, and sometimes it's what you want, sometimes it's not. It just does not go for like that pop sensibility. And this song totally hits that. And like Taylor said, it probably is like kind of like a 60s kind of like British invasion rock kind of swagger kind of thing. It's great.
I mean, I think that's why it was really fun for me to listen to, is because it is a lot of the stuff that they pick to make their sound is like really known for being heavier and having like a wider frequency range. Like they use Bassman and Music Man amps. They use like, you know, really heavy humbucker pickups that sound really large. The fuzz only increases everything when you distort the wave like that. The drums are these like old, Sonor drums from England, so they just have this like really deep sound, and the cymbals are heavy, so you just get this really like dark chocolatey sound almost, because it's almost a little hard to listen to, I feel like sometimes, because it's not clean, it's just sludgy, you know. But I think that's why I really liked it, and it's just the more that I listened to it, I just kept coming back to it. Like if I was in my car, I'm usually like a shuffler. Like if I listen to 30 seconds of something, I can move on to the next one. But with this one, I was like, nope, gonna listen to this all the way through.
I can't believe you're a music shuffler, Sean. Gotta listen to the whole thing. Pick something. Just listen to it.
Whole albums are bust.
Eat the whole bag of Skittles, Sean.
No. Okay, so now it's time for notable B-sides, and those are the tracks that were so close to making it to the first part of our podcast, but didn't. Anybody got some awesome B-sides for recommendations for 2018?
So I had Fever Pitch by Rainbow Kitten Surprise, Playing With Me by Kyle, Forever by Matt and Kim, Me and Michael by MGMT was really, really close to being my pick.
That was on my list too.
Fug You by Paul McCartney off his new record. And then my wild card pick for this year was actually a ska punk track that I got super into. It was Title Holder by the Interrupters, which that new Interrupters record, A+ stuff if you're at all into ska.
Who would have thought Taylor would have been the ska kid of the group?
Skanking my way through 2018, man. What can I say?
All right, I have two. I'm going to say the first one, and then I feel like we have to talk about the second one because I refuse to accept this. This is almost was my pick, and I just can't accept that we don't talk about it at least a little bit. So, Agnes Martin by Screaming Females. I think the album was great. I was so close to picking that. But Thank You Next by Ariana Grande is the biggest jam, and I can't believe I'm saying that it is honestly one of the best songs of this year. I just can't get over it. I don't understand why it's an earworm for me. It's just so good.
You know, I was actually thinking about that song this morning because I was catching up on SNL and thinking about, like, man, Ariana Grande and Pete Davidson kind of dominated the cultural moment there for a while. And Thank You Next was such a big moment song in the way that This Is America was, but obviously like with less cultural impact or import.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it's a bop, and it was a huge deal this year. I guess I just didn't want to touch anything related to Pete Davidson with a 10-foot pole.
I have no idea what's even going on with that. I'm just loving these vibes. That's all I care about.
First of all, if you cheat on Ariana Grande, you're just the world's largest piece of crap. I just want to put that one out there. Like, this song is pretty good, though.
All right, that's all I needed to hear. We're good. A cursory compliment for Sean is worth its weight in gold.
So, this year, I already picked a lot of them. Like I already said that After the Storm by Kali Uchis is one of my favorite songs this year. Okay, so in terms of ones that I haven't listed on the show, Keep It Real Dumb by Death from Above 1979. Love that song. Ministry of Alienation by Unknown Mortal Orchestra. Also super good. We talked about... Oh, so I know that you guys haven't heard this woman, but she is awesome. Her name is Tash Sultana, and she's like a guitar loop artist and she does a song called Jungle. It's absolutely amazing. I'm going to send you the link here in a minute, but really, really love her. I'm trying to think what else is really good. Oh, Matt Zoo put out a new album this year. There's a song on it called Vice. It's awesome. Very Matt Zoo. And then, you know what? I actually like this one. I like Ghosts by Smashing Pumpkins. I don't know how I feel about the whole album, but I like Ghosts. I thought that was really good. I listened to it a bunch. It's not on my top 2018 list because it's just came out a few weeks ago, but I listened to that a lot.
Well, Tyler, if people want to gush with you about the new Gorillaz record, where can they do that?
You can find my design and illustration work at rudepets.club, and you can find me on the socials as Rudepets Club on Instagram and Twitter.
Sean, if people have recommendations for a new fuzz pedal, where can they send those?
Ooh, don't come to me. Go to your local guitar shop and ask them, because they'll know better. But if you want to talk to me about guitars in general, you can find me at TellySean on Twitter and Instagram.
And if you want to mourn the loss of Childish Gambino with me, you can tweet at me at TC Olmstead. If you like what we've been doing here at No Repeat so far this year, you can leave us a review in your podcast app of choice. We will be doing a bunch more challenges in the new year, and we need some inspiration. So you can tweet challenge ideas to us at No Repeat Pod or email them to us at norepeatpod@gmail.com. And that's it. Thanks, everybody, and we'll see you next year with lots more songs on some more episodes of No Repeat.